industry. So my topic today is basically some insights and challenges in those trends. And we'll talk a little bit about tools, but this is really not about that as much as it is about what's going on in the automotive industry. And I find this a bit fascinating. In fact, I have subscriptions, I'm watching YouTube videos, I have some different news feeds, and it became a very, very interesting topic for me. So a little bit about Autoliv, because I'm obligated to tell you who I work for and how we work. So,
did you know Autoliv launched the first seatbelt back in 1956? We've come a long way since then. As our seatbelts evolved, so did our vision to save lives on the road. We started developing driver airbags in the 1980s, and now offer complete airbag systems in and around the vehicle. And that's just the beginning. We link passive safety with active safety. Our innovations don't only save lives after the accident has happened. We design state-of-the-art automotive safety systems that prevent potential accidents. Every year, 1.2 million people die in traffic-related accidents worldwide. Our products save more than 30,000 of those lives and prevent 10 times as many severe injuries. But that's not good enough. Our 60,000 employees working at 80 operations in 28 countries around the world are dedicated to saving more. At Autoliv, we all have a passion for saving lives.
all right, so that avoided all those slides you see with the calendars and the graphics and all of that stuff. So what I'm going to talk about today is this to start with. This is my grandchild, James. So he gets to start. He may never need to drive a car. He'll be 16 years old in 2033. And the question is why? There are a lot of transformation factors going on right now in the industry. The industry is facing a lot of pressure. So here are the top 10 challenges that I managed to research and find out to start with. Dealing with overcapacity, we still deal with that. Making more cars than we can actually sell. Attracting key talent, the talent pool, and finding people, especially here in the Michigan area, we're hiring like crazy. So have all your other companies, I believe, that are probably here today as the industry takes off. It's not the 2009s where you couldn't find a job. Dealing with simultaneous pressure to be efficient, customer-oriented, and strong brands. So the OEMs are facing that. We're facing pressure from non-OEM companies. Finding the balance between marketing, branding, and short-term sales volume. So some of these products will come and go. Does anybody remember the phone that went in your car? That lasted, 5 years? And then now we have a cell phone. So that's a product that came and went. We have other products that are experiencing the same thing. Becoming sustainable, basically not just an image, but basically substance, delivering something of value. Urbanization is taking hold, and I'll talk more about urbanization in a little later. Understanding mobility and the car of the future. So it's not just about the car anymore, it's about mobility within that car. And learning from and cooperating with other industries. The automotive industry in the years past has been the automotive industry. It's now kind of blurred a little bit. It's more, is it a little more aerospace? Is it a little bit more mobility? Is it one of these computer companies? It's a bit more puzzling. And applying a modern view of competition, basically new business models. New business models are going to exist. And then making money in a transparent, commoditized market. So let's talk about these transformation factors. The big four, for me, are technology, urbanization, culture, and environment. I'm going to break these down in detail, so that's where I need you to stay awake a little bit. If you start to fall asleep, just stand up. It's fine. So, technology. Here's 10 new technologies that have come on the market in the last little years. Maybe you guys, if you have a new car, you have some of these features. If you're driving a really old car, you might not have these features. Sorry. I'm pointing to Irene. She's trying to test and see how long Honda can keep her car on the market. All right, Toyota, sorry. 300,000? 400,000? Okay. Yeah. So anyway, biometric vehicle access. So this is coming, it already exists in some high-end cars where your finger or your retina or whatever is used to enter the car. Laser headlights. I don't know if you've seen any cars with these on them. They're not to blind the other people, it's actually to focus the light and make the light more crisp. Reconfigurable body panels. So the transformers are here. I don't know if you've seen these cars. You can turn your car into a truck and then turn that back into a sports car by reconfiguring the body panels. Kind of cool. External airbags. Autoliv came up with external airbags a couple of years ago, but they have to protect pedestrians, bicycles, cyclists, things like that. Ball-shaped wheels. Have you seen those? Goodyear has a prototype. They use maglev technology, so there's no axle. But now the car, think about it. You can do this. And you know, the kid who couldn't pass his parallel parking test, no problem with ball wheels, just sideways, right? Energy storing panels. So not only solar energy, but even nanotechnology. The paint itself absorbs energy and turns that into energy that the car can use. So kind of cool. V2V communication, V2 environmental communication. So the car now talking to cars, but also talking to the infrastructure. We have a concept of smart cities. I don't know if you guys have seen that, and I'll talk about smart cities. Active health monitoring. So not only is the driver, is they drowsy, are they falling asleep, but are they having a heart attack or other things that could be detrimental if they're driving. Augmented reality dashboards, and these are really cool, I want these. So if you have a GPS in your car today, it's probably about this big, right? And you gotta keep looking down on it, or you have that irritating lady, turn right, turn right, turn right. Well, the augmented reality is it's an overlay on top of your windshield. And so it's actually showing you the directions, but it's, in reality, it's an overlay of the actual physical with the virtual, which is kind of cool. And then self-driving cars. We'll talk about those in a bit. So those are 10 new technologies. I don't know if you guys have seen those or if you have vehicles with any of those. Obviously, I've never seen ball-shaped wheels, but I'm all for that. That'd be really cool. So here's a board, and this is on a Tesla. This is an NVIDIA product, or NVIDIA design. This is an autonomous controller for a main board. And you can see, other than it looks kind of spiffy, it is fairly highly advanced. It is covered in VGAs. You have the big NVIDIA chip in the back, and I'm sure they're working on thermal management for that. You have some nasty connectors in the front. Those look like Rosenberger connectors. Yeah. And then you have your traditional connector on the side. So this sucker is packed, right? And in the old days, we would have boards that, you know, we didn't have that complexity. But this is the way we're moving. This is the technology. And this is basically a motherboard for a computer, if you look at it, right? So technology needs, the complexity of some of these designs. Power and thermal management, it's just huge. It's just exploding. How to keep this module cool. No longer dry air is available to cool things. We have to look at other things. Liquid cooling, we might need fans, might need some other things as the power consumption goes up. Mechatronics, Joe Corolla touched on this, but really we're in a mechatronic world. A lot of requirements are crossing boundaries between electronics, mechanics, and software. And it's blending. Automotive electronics is blending into the computer and the aerospace type products. The other thing, and Joe touched on that as well, is moving from 2D to 3D. I really see that 3D is the way and the direction we need to go. We don't want to continue to interface with our mechanicals by sending them a design back, having them check it, send it back to us to make sure it's still right. It has to be real time. We have to shorten these design cycles. And then the last is the evolution basically from product design to system design. Working on the entire system, understanding what that system has to drive. So all of these things. Increasingly complex components as well. We have DDR4 now, probably DDR5 is on the shelf somewhere, I don't know. We have part on part, we've been looking at that, where the microprocessor and the memory are stacked so that we don't have EMI concerns, less layers, less complexity. Rigid flex and pin and paste components. We have shrinking packaging and then of course then power management issues for the hardware guys again, right? We have devices now that are greater than 1,000 connections. So we require symbol and connection management. No librarian wants to ever draw a 1,000 pin symbol that I know, unless they really like it, and I doubt that. O201s, embedded parts, wire bonded parts, conductive ink, where the parts actually inked onto the board. Automotive grade compatibility, finding components that we can use in the automotive industry that are actually up to snuff, that will go into the environmental rigors and vibration and thermal moisture management, right, of the automotive space. I had a discussion years ago with a guy who was in the military side, and I was telling him how harsh the automotive environment was, and he said, well, you know, I build an electronics board that goes in a shell that we shoot out of a cannon, you know, intelligent. I go, well, yeah, okay, I can see that being tough. You got all the G's, you got all the thermal. That's tough, but you only have to work once. We have to work for 20 years. So there's the difference, right? So that's the real question, is 20 years still the target? Some of these products are going to come and go. So automotive industry challenges, this a quote from Artifact. They're basically facing the Kodak moment, and if you're not familiar with Kodak, they kind of woke up to the reality that, film was kind of going away. If they didn't get into the digital world, they were dead, right? But that was the bread and butter. That was where all their money was. So it's imperative to innovate, and it's clear that the race is on. So let me break down the technology landscape, and maybe some of you are familiar with this. If you're not, or if you are, I apologize. But I think this really sets up where the technology is, and is where you hedge your bets, and how long you stay in one of those squares. So let me walk you through this real quick. We have the traditional human car, which is a level 0, and the human is in complete control. We have the driver-assisted human car, and basically that's what we call level 1, and those are on the road today, right? Those are the things with our automated braking, stability control, cruise control, all of that. Human is still in control. Then we move to the right side of the diagram, the autonomous-driven human-assisted car, the levels 2 and 3. Well, the car is in control, the human needs to be on standby to take control. We all know how that works out. If you saw the Tesla thing with the Harry Potter guy, he was watching Harry Potter while his car smashed into the side of a truck. Not such a good result. By the way, the company Tesla was not found at fault or liable for that. It was driver negligence. And the driverless car. So now the human becomes a cargo, well, a passenger, right? And the car is total control. And there may be not even human-machine interface. So no steering wheel, no brakes, right? We don't need those. We're not driving, right? They're in the way. So we have level 4 and level 5. And the difference here is 5 is in any environment. Okay? So there are some cars today. The Google car is a level 4, if you've seen the Google car. So let's talk about traditional cars. High volume, proven design, proven manufacturing technology, and next generation basically building on the previous generation, and we ship and forget. We all know that. It's been our bread and butter for years. It's a cash cow. But how are we doing driving cars? Well, not so good, right? Sorry, drink water. I was in airplanes the last little while. Delta Hotel, I call it. And so I got a bit of a thing going on my throat, so hopefully I don't lose my voice. So this is the sad part of this. Nearly 1.3 million people die in crashes every year. An average of 3,287 per day, or one person every 25 seconds. So additional 20 to 50 million people are injured or disabled. And right now, road crashes are the 9th leading cause of death worldwide. They cost almost $500 billion. And by 2030, they'll be the 5th leading cause of death. So your car is more dangerous than other things in the environment at that point. Very much more. So 90% of those accidents are caused by human error. And the main causes of those are distracted driving, drunk driving, and speeding. 90%. This is some US statistics in case you said, well, those are people driving in that part of the world, they don't know how to drive. Just in case. But in the US, 6 million people on average die in car accidents every year. 90 people per day, right? It's huge. And distracted driving. Nothing drives me more nuts than distracted driving. I said once that I think a drunk driver has more control than a person texting. I think they're trying to get home. They're focused on that drive. Whereas the text guy is like this, right? 1 in 3 people apparently text while driving in the US. Scare the hell out of me. And you're 23 times more likely to crash. So if you're texting and driving, stop, please. The other statistic that I find is really wild is only 1 in 7 people actually wear a seatbelt. That blows my mind when I see that. We have a guy that I work with. He works for us. We make seatbelts. Wear them, So, driver-assisted human driving car. So we move up a little bit of level because we need some help. We need to, if we're not paying attention, maybe the car can pay attention for us and tell us a few things. So this environment, it's a lower volume. It's optional stuff. And maybe that's the problem. And some of it's becoming non-optional, kind of standard equipment. But it's in that transition. Time to market pressure. There's a lot of pressure to get this stuff out. Is it a short-term solution? There's some blue sky products in this area. Things like I mentioned a minute ago, like laser headlights. Are those things that might come and go? But they're not niche products yet. They still have to get acceptance from the customer. New manufacturing technology is required. There's sensor technology is prevalent. The diagram on the right is showing you all the sensors that could exist in your vehicle. And adding to the car but not removing anything. So the price of the car kind of goes up because you're not paying attention, we'll help pay attention for you, right? So you can see from there you've got scanners and radars and everything all around the vehicle. So ADAS itself is a market that Autoliv is in, and these are some products that not only we make, but I'm sure that some of the other customers out here make. So adaptive cruise control, you've probably seen that, maybe you've experienced it. It slows down when the car in front of you slows down, no longer you have to hit the brake, you know, or touch the cruise control. Blind spot detection, very prevalent. Adaptive light control, so the lights dimming, brightening, that's been around for a while. Automatic braking, automatic parking, that's cool. You've seen the Focus, right? Back its way into the parking spot. Collision avoidance systems, and then driver drowsiness detection. Are the eyelids kind of, you know, like you guys right now? Is the eyelids kind of? GPS navigation, obviously been around for a while. Hill descent control, intelligent speed adaptation, so working with the road, understanding the speeds in the road. Lane departure warning systems, night vision, and tire pressure monitoring. All of those technologies part of the ADAS family. And well, just a little aside, speech recognition. So it's funny, I watch my wife talk to her phone all the time, asking about the weather and things like that. But these things are getting better. They're catching up to what I call Siri, which is kind of the benchmark, but even going beyond Siri and exceeding it. So the car of the future might be completely controlled by voice and hand gestures. So the human-machine interface is basically talking to it. But just think of the complexity, the number of languages in the world, the accents, everything else, right? So autonomous-driven, human-assisted car. So this is basically now the car is driving, and we're just there to make sure that it does everything it's supposed to do. And this is the airplane mode. This is today, if you don't realize it, right? The pilot basically takes off and lands the plane, but most of the rest of the time the plane's flying itself. I don't know if you guys know that, maybe you won't want to fly anymore, but that's the reality. So in this environment, more sensor technology, adding more technology to the car, but is this an interim solution? Mercedes, Audi, Volvo have all kind of started with this stepwise approach of, you know, level 1, level 2, level 3, try to get to the 4. But they're having a rethink. There's more money involved in this. Most of this technology is not available to most consumers. It's on high-end vehicles. Rejected by Google and Ford, so this is the rethink. They're saying we're not going to make a 2 and a 3 level car. We're going to go straight to 4 and get to a 5. And there are non-traditional players in this market, such as Tesla. So a quick word about Tesla. You either love Tesla or you hate Tesla. Seems to be no in-betweens. But Tesla was, as of April 3rd, a market value capitalization of $48.6 billion company now. So this isn't his rocket piece, this is his car piece. And it's basically worth more than Ford Motor Company on paper and closing in on General Motors. And in 2016, Tesla produced 84,000 cars. And it plans to build 500,000 by 2018. So no longer can Tesla be kind of ignored as a car company. At least, I don't think so. And they're not the only ones in this market. This is a huge map. There's over 1,000, almost 1,000 companies here. So a bunch of upstart companies jumping into things like fleet management and mapping and ride hailing and car sharing and public transit and auto wireless networking between the cars for V2V. The nice news over on the autonomous vehicles, someone who created this, the venture scanner people, they've actually put an Autoliv logo, so I wanted to point that out. And we're still on the radar. Use a pun. So for autonomous human-driven assisted cars, finding that balance between man and machine represents a difficult design problem. And some OEMs, like I said, have decided to skip it. This picture below is a picture from Daimler. As you can see, that guy, his chances of reacting to a problem, and he's writing in this book he's reading, are probably slim. So maybe this is not the right answer. Maybe a level 2 and a level 3 car is kind of, It would work for the airplane industry, but maybe not for the car industry. So this is an interesting quote from Eric Schmidt from Google. The car should drive itself. It's amazing to me that we let humans drive cars. It's a bug that cars were invented before computers. Mr. Schmidt, I apologize, but probably cars were easier to invent than computers at the time. But heck, I understand the sentiment. So let's talk a little bit about driverless cars. The fourth technology. Environment. Basically, the race is on, right? Time to market, 2020, first vehicles. That's not very far away. And 2030, common. Some surveys that I read said by 2030, 50% of the vehicles on the road would be autonomous. Level 4, level 5. The pace, The short development cycle, less than 2 years. The automotive industry had this 2-year get a vehicle kind of prepped and out and ready to go. That's shortening. The ability to compete in this market is huge because of, like I said, players like Tesla and non-traditional players want access to the mobility footprint. So you probably are aware of this, right? Because I bet you 80% of these people in here probably have Facebook. I don't, I'm sorry. So don't look me up on Facebook. But that social media comes with a cost. They're actually marketing to you. They're actually watching what you're doing. They're actually tracking that. So if you're in a car and you're driving to Starbucks in the morning or one of Dunkin' Donuts or something like that, it may suggest that on your driving, oh, Joe, why don't you stop at Dunkin' Donuts, your usual stop? Well, that didn't happen by chance. That's those mobility companies, the Yahoos, the Facebooks, or all of those companies mining that data. And believe me, they're greedy, they want this. So the car of the future, you might actually pay for, you might just subscribe. And they just give you the car so that they can go get the data. I can do weather mapping now, is the windshield wipers on? Well, it must be raining in that area. As the car stops, there's a traffic jam. So now I can report traffic congestion. So it's a really cool and scary thing at the same time. And the shift to ship and remember. Remember I said ship and forget? We sell the car, the guy might come in and get it fixed, but he might take it to his local mechanic. Well, now ship and remember. I want that. I want to track who that owner is. I want to keep them connected. I want to sell them services and apps. I want to continue. And if you've seen Ford Mobility, that's the whole idea behind Ford Mobility, is to roll that out, get that vehicle out there, and then provide a mobility solution for people. So the evolution of driverless car is not going to happen overnight. We have to establish trust, and I'm sure most of you say, I want to drive. Designing the co-pilot. So how does that look? And then embracing the passenger. You can see below here in this picture, this is a Daimler picture. She's pretty comfortable. I mean, if I could ride to work like this, that'd be awesome, right? So, driverless cars, there's some really nice answers. It's increased mobility and connectivity. The kids, the disabled, the elderly, and all the mobile office for workaholics, right? I'm sure you've had a boss in the past that he's driving, but he's still on his phone answering emails while he's driving, and you're looking at him going, oh, I hope we get there. Right? Parking fixes. So if we have on-demand driverless cars, we don't have to have all these parking lots, all this asphalt covering the entire planet, right? The reduction of accidents. The removal of drunk and distracted drivers. You want to drink? Fine. You're in an automated vehicle. As long as you don't fall out of it, I don't care, right? Expanded personal time. I mentioned that, right? I don't know, since the construction season kicked off here in Michigan, I actually like winter in Michigan because there's no construction. And I can drive in the winter. The spring, summer, and fall, the second season of Michigan called construction season, drives me insane. And this is nice here. You should go to like LA or New York or Chicago. And I was in Toronto this weekend. Traffic congestion is horrible. You're sitting there doing nothing. You're just wasting your time. On average, 42 hours per week, or 42 hours per year on average. That's an entire week you could get back of your life. You could do something with. I think that's kind of cool. So, some questions though. To ride or to drive, Shakespeare, right? Will there be traffic tickets? I wasn't doing it, it's the car, right? How will insurance work? And who assumes the liability? And they've been working on these things. So the driverless car is a nice idea. However, here's statistically what Nerd Wallet came up with. 76% do not want to put their child in a driverless car for a trip alone, right? It's kind of interesting. 50% would not pay extra for a driverless car. So I'll take a driverless car, but I'm not paying exorbitant. I don't want $100,000 Tesla, right? 49% are not interested in owning a driverless car. So half the population. And 46% think driverless cars will not be safe. I have to show them the other statistics because the normal car is not safe with you driving, right? You might think that, but no. And 36% say nothing appeals to them about the driverless car. So, ethically though, driverless cars could save 1 million lives per year by the next decade. Can we not afford to pursue this? I think driverless cars will happen regardless of the sentiments and the feelings of the people from Nerd Wallet. So, is driverless cars legal in your state? Well, Michigan, Florida, California, Nevada, and Washington, D.C. have all passed legislation that allows driverless cars on the road. So you may look over and see a car not driving by itself. Don't be panicked. In Michigan, that's legal. A lot of states are in legislation. That's the blue. And if you don't want driverless cars, you can move to Wisconsin or Vermont, apparently, because they've decided they don't want to do that. Now, I'm thinking in Wisconsin, Tractors, there's a lot of farming there, right? Those have already moved to driverless. I don't know if you've seen John Deere's commercials where John Deere takes their combines out in the field. They're already automated. So, the adoption of driverless cars, though, I think will be evolutionary. You'll have freight trucks, and those are already happening today. Long haul vehicles, public vehicles, so public transportation. Demand vehicles, ride shares, and we'll talk about that in a minute. And then personal vehicles. So I think this will be the order of operations for the adoption of driverless cars. So let's talk about, that's enough about technology. Let's talk about urbanization. Well, I don't know if you guys are aware of it. The world is growing. 8 billion people by 2025, close to 10 billion people by 2050. So no other time, even with all these plagues wiping people out and world wars, has there been so many people on the planet. Urbanized and a connected world. So in Asia, Africa, and Latin America, they're going to account for most of this growth over the next 20 years. Less than 3% will happen over here. So if you live over here, I guess it's not going to get too crowded. But this new middle class will live in cities. And this is interesting statistics that on the Earth, from 1985 to the last 25 years, the number of cities with 5 million inhabitants or more has grown from 27 to 61. And by 2025, the UN predicts 9 new megacities with a population of 10 million each. And that's just in Asia. And this is a really scary one. Between now and 2030, India must build a new Chicago every year to absorb the millions of villagers streaming in from the countryside. Have you ever been to Chicago? It's freaking huge, right? So this is just a quick chart if you are interested. These are the cities that will become new megacities. For me, my daughter lives in London, so I have to inform her city will be megacity by 2025. But again, population, urbanization. Quick graph just showing the trend. So world urban population increasing, that's the red, and then in the blue, rural population decreasing. So with all these people moving into the city and driving cars and trying to park, what's that going to look like? Oh, just shudder, right? So we need smart cities. Urbanization is creating a massive and rapid pressure on massive transit systems. And growing urban middle class also creates challenges because there's an expectation of digitalization. This isn't just moving into the slums in the city. I want internet access. I want to be able to, order my Starbucks online, so when I get there, it's there. I want services. There's a proliferation of Internet of Things sensors. I'm sure you've been land-based by Internet of Things, right? And then the need for a new business model in the automotive space to manage these environments. Like I said, how crowded is the city going to be? Where are we going to park? How are we going to get around that city? So let's talk about culture, because culture is going to shift too with this automotive industry. In culture, this is an interesting quote from Dieter Zeiss from Daimler. Anyone who focuses solely on technology has not grasped how the automated driving will change society. The car is growing beyond its role as a mere means of transport and ultimately, will become a mobile living space. Maybe people live in the cars. I don't know. Right? Some of these workaholics, if they have enough stuff, all they need is really a restroom and they'd be good to go. This is a Mercedes car, an F-15. Kind of cool. I don't know if you've seen it before, but this is a fully autonomous vehicle. It still has some human-machine interface, but as you can see, the seats have been tilted over. Has a lot of video screens and other things. I can see my boss in there. We'll have a meeting, right? The four of us will be in there looking at PowerPoint slides. So this transition to autonomous vehicles, the self-driving revolution as it's been called, in 2020, like I mentioned, the fully autonomous vehicle are being developed for consumers. They're already a reality in industrial fleets, so trucks, things like that. Car OEMs will begin to assess strategic impact, and a new mobility model will begin to emerge. By 2030, consumers begin to adopt these automated vehicles. So after sales service, landscape is reshaped. Insurers shift from covering the individual to covering technical failures. Like I said, the insurance industry is waking up to this. And supply chain logistics and things are redefined. How does the car dealership survive this? How does the garage fix this, right? Car's so complex, I just can't take it to Larry down the street. He used to crank on my car. He knows all the mechanics, but he has no idea about computers. Right? Era 3, the autonomous vehicle becomes the primary means of transportation. So that's not that far. AVs free up to 50 minutes a day for driving, like I mentioned. Parking space is reduced. Vehicle crashes fall by 90%. And AV technology accelerates the development of robots for consumer use. So it's coming, people. I can't hold it back. This is an interesting stat because I'm sure some of you have a millennial, or maybe the next generation after millennial, whatever we're going to call that. Maybe there exists, I don't know. Do I want to drive a car, or do I want to ride in a car? Do I want to even own a car? It's the second most expensive thing to buy in your lifetime. They prefer a smartphone over a car. Ask any millennial. They'll take the phone. I don't need a car. Urbanization. So this public transportation, is it available? The increase in online shopping. I love online shopping at Christmas time. I don't have to go to the mall and fight my way through 3,000 idiots and maniacs, right? Just ship it to my house. I'll wrap it up when it gets there. It's whatever. Social interactive media. I don't know, when I grew up as a kid, we used to all go in the neighborhood and meet, we'd go do something. Kids of today don't do that. They get online. They're chatting, Snapchat, Instagram, all this other, Twitter. All of that happens, right? Virtual spaces. So there are virtual play spaces. I don't know, I was looking at, shouldn't you go out and meet with your friends? I am playing with my friends. Really? Wow. Where are they? Oh, they're virtually over here. Wow. Okay. Ride services. Also, another thing that millennials are quicker to adapt to. We had a conversation about Uber last night. You know, oh, is Uber safe? Is Uber not safe? Well, if I have an autonomous vehicle, I don't have to deal with a crazy driver anymore. Uber, to me, would make sense as a millennial or next gen. The chart on the right here, the drivers themselves, this is an interesting statistic, and it's not just happening now. It's been happening for a long time, but 47% in decline. You know, when I was 16, I wanted to get my driver's license. Kids don't no longer want to do that. The insurance industry has kind of killed some of this too, though, if you think about it. The price of insurance on a 16-year-old? Oh my gosh, that's crazy. No, Junior, you can have the phone. That's cheaper. And you can even have the good data plan. Right? So 19-year-olds, 21% down. So even the 19-year-olds who now really maybe need a mobility because they have a job, right? They're going to school. That's still declining. So this is from University of Michigan, quite an interesting study. So let's talk a little bit about ride services real quick. There are two types. There's ride hailing and car sharing. And I don't know if you've dealt with car sharing. It's kind of a newer thing. But so ride hailing, of course, Uber, Lyft. Ola is huge in Asia. So we're number one in India. Both want driverless cars. They don't want to have to deal with the person driving a car. So they are driving this driverless car market. And then on the right, the car share, you Zipcar, Maven, Car2Go, get around, etc. Maven is a GM spinoff, if you're not aware of that. They realized that maybe we just need to lend our cars to people. So this isn't car rental. You can go in Boston and get a car for an hour. You go to a parking lot, you take the car, you're part of Maven, you swipe it, you drive it, and you return it. Or you can return it to another Maven parking lot. But basically, I've just borrowed the car. And so, ride shares and the introduction of autonomous vehicles, does that mean less volume? Does it mean the OEM's going to sell less cars? Does that mean the tier ones have less parts? I hate to scare you guys, but there might be less vehicles on the planet at one point, right? Other questions. I don't know if you're like my family, but every time my wife, cleaning services for cars, right? How to manage personal items, right? How do we take all our junk with us? Because in the car, we've got all that stuff, right? I used to know a guy that he had a pickup truck, a Ranger, and his entire back of his Ranger was full of stuff, just in case he needed it. Okay, so you have like a hot air balloon repair kit back there. That's going to be useful. Not sure why, but that's a personal item. How does he carry all that stuff around, right? Car seats. Have you ever picked up a car seat? So I have my grandchild. These car seats are ridiculous now. Man, they're like 50 pounds. So is the woman going to carry that and her kid and try to get in a ride share? I don't know. Parking, well, that should alleviate some parking. And then driveways. If I don't have a car, do I need a driveway? Do I even need a garage? Other than for my junk, right? And then other interesting factors that have come out, more on the social side of this, is discrimination. There's statistics to show certain minorities are being refused maybe a ride because maybe there's a social dynamic there where someone is a bit racist, is driving one of these drive share cars. Or not drive share, or sort of ride hailing cars. Safety. How safe is it? And liability. Who's at fault? Is Uber at fault? Is the guy driving the car at fault? So they want to get rid of basically the drivers. And this is an interesting thing. Audi has what they call a micro-sharing experience. So you in Stockholm, Sweden, you can get yourself an Audi now, which Audis are pretty expensive, but you're sharing that with 2 or 3 other people. And if you think about it, when you drive to work, your car is sitting there most of the day. You use your car maybe 5% of the day, unless you're going on some big road trip. You drive to work, you park it, it stays there. You get in it, you go home, it stays there. So with this plan, that car is being shared. I don't know if you guys are familiar, probably a lot of you are. There's applications already, like Waze, which is social navigation, right? The ability to harness all that data. Remember that digital data that we're talking about that Facebook wants? Well, Waze is an application where you can report accidents, police, construction, congestion, all of that stuff. They use that data, they send that back. I used Waze to drive all the way from Florida back to Michigan one time. I thought it was wonderful. I never got caught by the police in Ohio or Georgia. So that was a good trip. Regulations and standards. So liability. Who is at fault? And that's the big question here, right? The artificial intelligence acts as a moral compass. What kind of regulations are around that? Who programmed that AI interface? Who decides who dies and who lives if there's a choice between two? The computer. Kind of scary. Laws. Who's at fault? The driver, the manufacturer, the component supplier? There's a lot of standards within the automotive chain, functional safety, ISO 262, even the tool chain itself. So tools that Mentor is selling you, somehow we have to prove that they're functional safety compliant. And other stuff, AutoSAR, ASPICE, CMMI. So a little bit about security, that's the other thing. So regulations, standards, and security. Well, data protection. So I sell it, I move to a ship, and remember, who owns that data, right? Who owns that intellectual property? Is there a right to be forgotten? In Germany, they're passing laws now where you get cyber protection, where you can erase your digital footprint. So, privacy, personal mobile tracking. So, with this introduction, they want to track where you are. I don't know if you're aware of it, but even if you don't have a cell phone and you're in one of the modern day cars today, they can track that car. All of those cars are trackable, right? Balancing security and collaboration. So, you know, it's nice to be able to have that digital footprint and know, coming up as one of my favorite stores, so I should probably stop in. I haven't been there in a while, say hello to whoever, buy something, etc. But at the same time, you have to balance that with security. What are you giving away, right? And then, of course, hacking, intellectual threats to products. When the car becomes more digital, more available, is there ability to hack it? Is there ability to take it over? I don't know if you've seen some studies on that. So let's talk about the last factor, environment. So the environment is moving to a work from home in some cases. So that's a disruption to tradition. So the evolution of the workspace is happening. There's more global teams, more virtual meetings, right? Video conferencing. And the need for collaboration and data sharing is high. But do I even have to get in my car? There's been studies shown in the United States that if I didn't have to drive to work every day, I would save around $40,000 per year. I'd take that. That's a nice raise, right? Growth, costs, and challenges. So the auto industry's profits, right? The traditional, the GMs, the Fords, the Chrysler Fiats, they don't have the kind of profit margins like Apple and Google, or even Uber for that matter, right? So how are they going to compete? Consequently, overhead costs like product development tools must fit the financial model of automotive companies. Shout to Mentor, keep your prices in good shape. Pressure for time to market, basically more simulation, less build, more test strategy approach. And I think Mentor's grasped that. And then partners, mergers and acquisitions. We've just seen the merger and acquisition of Mentor by Siemens, right? But this constantly evolves. All the chess pieces moving around the board, right? How do we keep up with that? Which tool should we use, right? And car growth. So in 2016, 87 million cars were produced worldwide. Global production is slated to be 107 million by 2020. Most of that coming out of China. China is really booming. Now here's the scary bit. If everyone owns a car like we do in the US, or multiple cars, or multiple cars, and if that happened in all the other countries, we would increase the number of cars by 4 times. And there are today 1 billion cars on the earth, right? So the amount of pollution and energy that's required, requires alternative energy. So just really quick, I'm not going to go through this whole slide, but you have all these different types of alternative energies, hybrids, plug-in hybrids, battery diesel, biodiesel, ethanol, compressed natural gas, hydrogen, All of them have cons and pros. I think people are laying their money on battery electric right now, but I'm not saying that's probably the final solution. And like I said, battery electric could be a possibility here. But all of this technology needs to be developed. All of this infrastructure needs to happen. So, quick conclusion. Hopefully you're still awake. Basically, there are 6 transformative paradigms affecting us in the next decade, and some of the top ones are already taken on. The software-defined car, sensors and big data, and the connected car, that's happening today to drive smart mobility. At the bottom, the car sharing, driverless cars, electrification, the Internet of Things, cooperative mobility, those things are all coming online. So all of these are going to drive the market. So in the next 5 to 10 years, it's a critical period for the automotive industry. As engineers grapple with many complex challenges posed by the automotive vehicle, we'll need to learn to relinquish more and more control of our intelligent machines, right? And how will we adapt as drivers and ultimately emerge as passengers? So the benefits of all this work, of course, will be systems that serve our needs, keep us safe, and create boundless opportunities for products, services, and experiences as we move to a smart mobility market. So my last conclusion slide, I think we live in interesting times. This is from a Chinese guy. I think there was no credit for it, but may you live in interesting times. Thank you.